Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we proudly present our spectacular show of podcast magic and imagination full of Disney wonder, news, and pop culture. It's the Main Street Electrical Podcast with Jenn Dave and David Dollar.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, Dave.
I'm so glad I called you to ask you to return to the podcast.
Oh, it was so nice of you.
After a week-long absence,
It was, it was touch and go there for a minute.
Right. Well, welcome back.
Quasi-producer Heather.
This is the Main Street Electrical Podcast. I am David. Of course, that is Jen. And, Disney unfolds so strangely sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get on here and we're like, oh my gosh, guess what? This new thing called Genie Plus is coming. How will it work? We don't know. Other times we get on here and we're like, oh, guess what? This so-and-so is reopening. And then you get a bombshell out of nowhere on a Sunday night when you're fixing supplements for your kid before he goes to sleep. And of course, you're doing whatever you're doing, probably getting ready for bed as well, because it's over in Amish country and the lights have been out for hours. But we'll get to that. Jen, how did you Disney this week?
Well, I Disneyed this week. I made 2 purchases for my Disneyland conference that I have coming up. So, after the agency retreat, I am literally leaving Orlando and flying to Anaheim in order to do a different conference. So I had to do some purchases because we have some themed nights. I'm very excited, but so I did need to get some things.
I don't know when your travel time is. I don't know when your I don't know when your flight is, but you should really figure out a way to hit all 4 parks, then fly to California and run into one of the 2 parks.
No,
I would
no
totally
possible way. My flight's at like 9 a.m. I don't think that's gonna work.
Okay. Well, maybe Animal Kingdom. It usually opens at 7:30 or 8. Get in there for one attraction. At least you get to one park. And see,
I miss my flight. It'll be fine.
That would be totally my dreams. To all 6 parks in one day, do the 4, and then fly backwards in time to California to knock out 2 parks. And just how cool would that be?
That sounds exhausting. I'm not gonna.
It does sound exhausting. I would do it in a heartbeat. So there was a movie that was released on Disney Plus this week. I Disneyed by watching on the 18th. As soon as it was released at 7 a.m, I was actually in front of my computer watching Disenchanted with my lovely Amy Adams. That's right.
This does not surprise me.
Oh, great. I had it circled on the calendar, and I knew that I would watch it as soon as it was available. I was done with it by 10:30. I had to stop and go here and there, but I was done with it. It's a 2-hour and 7-minute movie, a little long.
Oh, that's kind of long, actually.
Disenchanted takes place sometime after, of course, the events with her and Robert. Giselle and Robert together now. They have the daughter who's now older, and they have a little baby now, Sophia. And so, is it Sophia? I think it's Sophia.
Sophia the first?
No, probably. Well, second. Anyway, there is I actually texted our agent Kyla because there is a Bella and a Sophia in this movie, to which she has 2 children of the same names. So, she's now gone into motherhood, and they've moved to a kind of a more country style house. And so Robert's having to commute. He's wondering where his life is going. And Giselle's kind of that, like, my stepdaughter is being the brat teenager that teens tend to be sometimes. As I never was, but I know that you were sometimes, back when you were a teenager. And so way back when. And so, she wishes for a fairy tale life. Well, of course, in the land of disenchantment, a fairy tale life is not all that it's cracked up to be. And so things go awry. Now she must save the day to turn things back to where they belong. Idina Menzel is in this a lot more, as is James Marsden, James Marsden, who is the prince. And Idina Menzel gets her own solo. She gets her own power ballad, which is cool.
That's
the
awesome.
Movie it's very Disney. You kind of know how it's going to go. You know how this movie's going to end.
I pretty much have an idea, but
exactly. But it's a lot of fun. It really is. I know there are people that don't care for it. The first one is obviously so much better. It's such a good movie. This one, a little cheesy, a little flaky, but I think this one's very pleasant. I think it's a lot of music in this one. I think there are 2 more songs in this than there was previous. Okay. The music is great. It's fun. Even Patrick Dempsey gets into it a little bit, sings a little bit here and there. A lot of dancing going on. I thought it was fun. I really did. But then again, I am very inclined to be an Amy Adams fan. If you turn this into Jessica Chastain, let's say that she was in the first one and in this one, I would still like it. Probably not as much, but I would still like this movie as well. I just thought it was fun. I thought it was very easy. This is a movie you can put on Disney Plus leave on TV for kids are in the room with not a worry. There's nothing too scary about it. Maya Rudolph is the quasi villain.
I did see that, and I love Maya Rudolph. Like,
she's great in this, very
great.
comical, so there's nothing creepy or evil. The little chipmunk Pip is back. Alan Tudyk now voices a scroll in this, an enchanted scroll, which is kind of fun. So it's a fun movie. It's on Disney Plus.
Very fun.
This is one that I'm kind of glad they didn't put in the theaters. I don't know how well it would have done in theaters.
I mean, probably not great, but
it's good. It's good. I would say anybody hesitating to, I don't want to know if I want to see the sequel to Enchanted. I love Enchanted so much. Do I want go watch it? Put it on and watch it. And it is a little slow to begin with as the story gets going, but once they jump back into Andalasia, I think it's quite entertaining. So
Andalasia or Andalusia?
Andalasia. Andalasia.
Is it Andalasia? Okay.
In South Alabama is where my mother lives.
Oh,
Andalusia,
that's what,
Alabama.
Okay, that's what.
Andalasia is the fictitious cartoon kingdom in Disney's Enchanted universe.
I knew I've actually heard the term Andalusia before.
Yes, Andalusia, Alabama.
So
down south, not really close to anything. I'll be honest with you.
Oh my god.
So it's in down south. So really, of course, the big news that broke over the weekend that just shocked everybody, and I think this is really no surprise to most people. We just didn't know when it was coming, is that there are no more tickets left for the Christmas party. They're all sold out completely.
Obviously,
in December.
That was the thing that shocked me the most, really, this week.
Right. So we're going to have probably a 20 to 30-minute discussion on that fact, the fact there are no more tickets. So what do you do? And we want to go through every single date. And what do you do on those dates if you don't have a ticket?
Very specifically.
So let's start with the first date.
If anybody believed that, they were like, oh my gosh, I'm starting this off right
Well,
now.
actually, I made that joke on Facebook and somebody reached out to me and they were like, Are you serious? All the tickets are gone? I was like, oh, the tickets are in fact gone.
But actually, all the tickets are. I mean, the
tickets are in fact gone. They've all been sold out. Sold out. So I am literally in my kitchen. This is what 9 o'clock at night, 8:30, 9 o'clock, something like that. And I'm working on fixing a little bit of juice for my kid. He's about to go to bed. We don't have school on Monday because he's out for the whole week. I remember kids are soft these days. I remember back when we had to go till like Wednesday, like mid-afternoon, and then got home for Thanksgiving. Now the kids are like off all day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's crazy.
Back in my day, we like barely got half a day off.
Right. I mean, I'm surprised we didn't have to go on Thanksgiving back in my day.
I mean, literally.
Anyway, so I get this text from a friend of mine, and he was like, "Did you see this news?" And I looked at it, and it said, "Chapek out, Iger resuming CEO position at Disney." And of course, I immediately went to our chat, mine and yours, and we share it with a couple other people.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh gosh, this is happening. Holy crap. And of course, verification, because we don't know where this is coming from.
Exactly. And simultaneously, like you had sent that message, which I'm in. I missed a call from one of my cast member friends who happens to, be a co-hostess on a different podcast. But anyway, I missed a call and I got a message, girl. Oh my gosh. I was like, sorry, I missed you. What? So I'm seeing your message. She's calling me.
Right. Well, I mean, that was the question. People initially were like, "Is this legitimate? Is this real?" And of course,
it was an email from the Walt Disney Travel Company.
What's crazy is I was holding my phone, and I actually heard my phone scream as Heather, quasi-producer Heather, was yelling from Pennsylvania. I heard it through my phone. I didn't call her. It was just a message. I picked it up and I was like, phone.
They probably heard it in Orlando. Honestly,
I did. I got messages. I got texts. Like I'm sure you did as well. People are asking, "Did you hear? Did you see what's going on?" Blah blah blah. I had a family member who called me, and the first thing she said to me was, "Oh my gosh, did you hear? We are going crazy down here." And she's actually at the parks on a break in her job, working with some other cast members, and they're all in the background, and they're all like, "Oh my gosh," talking, chattering. The chatter is lively. As a result, Bob Chapek was asked to step down. He did not resign. He was asked to step down, fired without cause, which is part of the contract. It happens sometimes in the corporate world. Immediately,
we did not know.
No,
I would say we did not know this at the time. Like, this
and I am very glad that we chose not to do any kind of reactionary podcast. I know a lot of podcasts did that, and that's okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
It's kind of given us a chance to kind of disseminate some of the news, kind of figure out what happened here and there. And the story is very intriguing. We'll get to that in a second. But of course, Robert Iger, who basically was in charge of Walt Disney for about 15, 16 years, stepped in. He's stepping back for another 2-year term. He signed a contract through the end of December 2024, excuse me.
Okay.
And so for a base salary of only $1 million with a lot of bonuses thrown in. So he's going to be able to make a lot in bonuses, but he doesn't really need the money.
Yeah.
So what I thought would be good is first of all, I want to kind of set this up. I want to kind of set up what happened, how we got to where we are. And then real quick, I think it would be good, Jen, for you to kind of give us an idea of where you think we're going.
Okay.
In terms of the company. So kind of set the scene. And you can hop in here, what the facts that you know as well if I missed anything. But Bob Iger, of course, stepped in for Michael Eisner. You see my background here, Eisner, and which I consider Eisner the GOAT. I do. Eisner is one of my
You're a
idols.
big Eisner fan.
I'm a big Eisner guy. I very well admit towards the end of his career, power hungry, did not do a good job at the end of his reign. Probably
which, as I recall, is why he was basically no longer CEO.
Yes, he was outed. He was basically ousted because he tried to get Roy O. Disney, the nephew of Roy Disney, fired to leave the board. And there was a big kerfuffle there, and Roy Disney was like, yeah, see, that's not going to happen. And Roy Disney led an actual coup at a stockholders meeting, humiliating him. A vote of no confidence right there, and so it was the whole thing, and that's a whole other podcast.
Which people are very divided on the whole Eisner,
but I'm a big Eisner
the Eisner era.
In his glory days, he was. I mean, he made some big mistakes. Disneyland Paris was a big mistake when it first happened. But a lot of things he did, I think, were great. Iger comes in. Iger is very creative minded. He's very like, how do we grow this company? How do we get this company more creative? At the time, Steve Jobs had said, we're not owned by Disney at the time, because all the Toy Story, Bugs Life, whatever, that was released with Disney, not as a Disney product.
Not as a Disney product, correct.
Steve Jobs had said, I'm never working with Disney again as long as Eisner is in charge. So Eisner had stepped down. Iger comes in, Bob Iger, who actually headed ABC Studios in the 90s, had a lot of experience, married to Willow Bay, who is one of the correspondents from NBC News, I think. NBC News, I believe, for a while.
Sure.
Maybe ABC, but she was one of the anchors. She's had a long journalistic career. So Iger steps in. Iger immediately repairs the divide between Steve Jobs, Pixar, and Disney. Basically, Disney buys Pixar in 2005, 6, 7, something like that. Iger also steers and engineers the purchase of Marvel, the purchase of Star Wars and all Lucasfilm properties, including Indiana Jones, including Willow, and all of that, because people forget Indy Jones is owned by Disney too, and all of those things. He also was kind of the driving force behind getting Fox over to Disney. All the Fox
I was going to say, he
such,
did Fox too.
A lot of that. He oversaw and kind of I don't want to say headed up. He kind of led the charge to get Pandora in the parks. The new Fantasyland, a lot of was him. Now that's not all him, obviously. That is his creative brain to say, you know what, creatively, we're going to make some of this happen. And a lot of success under Iger.
He did a lot of really great things for the parks and the company.
He really did. And of course, he has his faults too. There are things that he didn't do right, as anybody will.
There's no CEO that's going to be perfect, but I feel like overall, people were like, fine. There weren't a lot of like Iger haters, basically, that I recall, at least that I recall.
Wrote a book called Ride of a Lifetime, which is fantastic, by the way. And one of the things he really kind of opens up with is when the little boy died from the crocodile attack at Grand Floridian. He talks about that in depth, and just how he got word of that. He was not even in the country, and just how it just devastated him, because he's like, how does this happen?
How does this happen?
Watch, and just, it's awful. A great book, great audio. He reads the audio. It's about 8 hours, or about 4.5 if you do it, like multiple speed like I do. So that's Bob Iger. Bob Iger is very big on legacy. His legacy is something very, very important to him. He wants to leave a legacy. So he handpicked Bob Chapek to take over for CEO when Iger stepped down in 2019, 2020. It's when he was looking to step down.
2020 was the official installation, but we knew about it in 2019.
Now, Chapek was a guy who'd been with Disney a long time. He was one of the ones, I believe, that helped spearhead the whole vault idea with the movies and stuff. Like where the movies go into the vault for 7 or 8 years. They come out, they're sold for a year and back into the vault. Kind of spearheaded that. He was in charge of, was it Disney Cruise Line? I think back in the day, though. Back in the day. I mean, it's been a while. Yeah, it's not wasn't like 5 years ago. I mean, he's been through the company, through the ranks. So he's
done a lot of things.
Well, immediately, from all reports, there was automatic conflict between Chapek and Iger. However, right after Chapek took over, I don't know if you remember the first week.
I do.
The boardwalk caught fire. Jungle Cruise boat sank.
There was one other thing too. Was it a Skyliner thing?
Skyliner had an accident. I made a meme before COVID. I made a meme of, like, I have this great meme that I made where it was the Weasley twins flying away from Umbridge, and it's like there's like fire and everything going on behind it, and it's like Iger leaving, and all these things are happening with Chapek all behind you, with Chapek coming in, and of course COVID hit. COVID shut everything down into March of 2020. So Iger stepped back in to kind of co-lead, to kind of help navigate through the storm, which they both, to Chapek's credit, I think they did a both great job. leading with Disney, not laying off all the cast members. I mean, giving cast members their pay for a long time. And again, they're not perfect, but I think they did a fairly good job through that. Now, of course, parks started opening back up. Iger stepped back. Chapek takes over. Immediately, Chapek, his mind is not in creative. His mind is in data. His mind is
finance.
In his mind is how much more money can we make?
He's a numbers guy, basically.
He immediately restructures everything, and Iger actually notably cautioned him to say, "Hey, don't lose your creative. Do not let go of your creative people." And Iger famously said, "Well, now we're a data-driven company. We're not a creative-driven company," which is a problem because creatives started leaving. We lost Imagineers. We lost a lot of people who
great Imagineers.
A lot of people who did a lot of the things at the parks. They started leaving. Now again, I don't know who is in charge of things like park reservations and Genie Plus and things like that. Some of that falls obviously on the beloved Josh D'Amaro because he's the head of the Disney parks, and so we get some of that. And, and let me just say this: I don't know Chapek personally. I've never met the man. I've not read many articles about him as a person.
And he doesn't return my phone calls.
Yeah, he doesn't return phone calls. He hasn't returned my text yet. We invited him to be on the show for his first post-CEO interview. No response. So we're going to say
this is your invitation, Bob.
Yeah, his team said no comment. We'll just say that. And by not saying anything, they said no comment or even acknowledging we invited them. Anyway, so whatever. Yeah, we don't know Chapek's character, so I'm not going to be like he sucks as a guy. I have no idea. I don't know the guy. He might be
a great guy.
I'm sure he's a great father. I'm sure he's a great husband. I'm sure all of that. As a leader, I think he was not doing as well. He restructured the company.
I just think it wasn't the right fit.
It wasn't the right fit, and it wasn't the right
this
idea.
company. And maybe in a different company, probably a very good fit. Or another division or of a different company.
Right. Or, leading up with some of the other things. Well, immediately he restructured it. He wanted to take emphasis off the creatives at the parks and things like that. And he immediately put it onto streaming. Disney Plus, which was going maybe a year at this point. They wanted to put it on the Hulu and ESPN and all that. So also instead of tapping the people who have been running that effectively for the most part to put them in charge, he brought in a gentleman named Kareem Daniel, who was kind of an up-and-comer, kind of a protege, but did not have a lot of experience in this area. Tapped him to be in charge. Over the course of a couple of years, Disney Plus, even though it's got like 100 million subscribers or whatever, is billions of dollars in debt right now. Now, I can't tell you if that's mismanagement or just the streaming platforms itself, because Netflix, Hulu, Prime, all of those are struggling right now with a whole lot of factors. It's different
absolutely there. That's a different pot.
But there is a glaring issue there. Also, 2021 rolls around, the parks are reopened and everything. Everything's kind of back to normal. Well, not back to normal, but getting back to normal. 2022 rolls around, and Disney is losing money. Now, what I've said before is that stockholders, they don't care about your park experience. They don't care about the magic. They don't care about Tinkerbell flying from the castle. They don't care whether supercalifragilistic breakfast is open. They care about whether they're going to make money or not. And up until this year, they were doing okay. So they were like, okay, we'll give you another contract this summer. Bob Chapek was given another contract for another 3 years. And we were like, really? Well, of course, November 8th rolled around to a disastrous stockholders meeting. It was Disney lost a ton of money. Now they made profits, but overall things were bad. Things were really, really bad. Stocks were down, quarterlies were down. I mean, like investors were not happy.
Stocks were lower than I've seen in
now. Yeah, because if you bought stock in Disney, I think in 2014, you would be underwater right now. You'd be losing money,
which is crazy. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, for a company as big as Disney is and all the acquisitions they've taken and what they've done. So cut back to last summer, Bob Iger, who is again very, very filled with legacy. He's not really happy with the fact that Chapek has kind of done some things with the company he didn't agree with, and Iger's also taking it personally because he handpicked Chapek to take over, and so
he did.
A reflection on him. So he is beginning to complain behind the scenes about Chapek. Now the whole kerfuffle, and again, not going to get into it. The whole kerfuffle with Florida government, Ron DeSantis and the party there with Florida and Disney over the summer over some legislation, things like that. That all happened. Iger, and this is all actually from a New York Times article and a few other articles of good sources that I've read. Iger was very unhappy that Chapek did not call him for advice. He tried to contact Chapek. There was no advice. There was no like, hey man, you've gone through this kind of thing before. How can we work this together? Can you help me give some advice? Chapek shut him out because he didn't like the fact that Iger was trying to step over. Iger was bad mouthing him, for lack of a better word, and so Chapek shut him out. So there's a whole like division there. So along the way, the board was also starting to get unhappy.
Yeah.
The investors meeting of the 8th was the straw that broke the camel's back. So basically what happened at 20 years ago with Eisner was started happening here, where you had some members of the board, the CFO, people like that are starting to ask cast members to say, hey, not cast members, but board members, hey, can we get rid of this guy? And it was actually said that by, I believe it was Christine McCarthy, who is the CFO, who said, there's a problem. I mean, he's losing the company. So last Friday, and today's the 22nd, so 21st, 29th, like the 18th, at 3 p.m. Susan McCarthy, who's the board director, called Iger at 3 p.m. and said, hey, could you come back? And they had a discussion. They worked it out over the course of a couple of days. And this happened like 48 hours. In 48 hours, it was agreed he was coming back. Apparently, Chapek found out basically right before the announcement. And unlike, well, I've heard several cast members say this and agree with this. Unlike what happened with the furloughs and the layoffs, where a lot of cast members found out things through Twitter and through news sources.
And the website.
Iger emailed the entire cast of Disney World from his own personal email, basically saying, I've humbly decided to accept the position offered me. I'm stepping back in as whatever, directly to their email. Now, I'm knowing it was going to get out, obviously, but he wasn't making a big press release or anything like that. He was emailing the cast members directly. And I cannot tell you how many cast members I've seen that have like, that email was amazing, because that's the personal touch
what I've heard
needed.
from cast members
we want that personal touch, so that's what's happened. Chapek has stepped down. Now, before you feel too bad for Chapek and kind of some of the bad mouthing that's gotten, he's going to walk away with $25 million, and he will no longer have to deal with Disney adults. So there is some merit to that.
I mean, he's probably, I know people are like kind of blasting him right now, but if he can kind of stay off social media and just be comforted with his 25 mil, I mean, I think
he'll be okay. And he's not a bad businessman and the right fit, because he worked for Disney for a long time. And literally, he was promoted to CFO.
And that's what I said. Like, I think he's actually a very good fit for a company. I mean, he's a great businessman when you think of certain aspects of it. I mean, if you want to profit, if you want to turn bigger profits, I mean,
absolutely. So that's kind of how we got to where we are right now. Iger is now back in charge. Again, agreeing to take the position on.
It was
Friday
effective immediately.
This wasn't like a 2-week transition or at the end of the year. Iger's going to step back.
I mean, this was Sunday night that it came out.
Monday, Iger walks in like, I'm here, baby. I mean, Chapek's got a box and walking out, and that's, I mean, from what I understand, again, from the parks, I think we had a few of our agents down in the parks. Emily Ryan, who's the owner of Bluebird Gifting Company, which we'll get to in a few minutes, by the way.
Yes, we will.
She is also down there a lot, and she said the cast members were just, the morale is like lifted. It's just, it's just great. So this is how I liken it to. I kind of liken it to the WWE. And this is going to be foreign to Jen when I say this, but this will make sense. WWE ran
I used to watch WWE.
So long by Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon owned WWE, and he ran WWE. But towards the end of the year, the last couple of years, they made some really stupid decisions. Some things didn't go right, and just whatever.
Yeah.
So it was finally decided he needed to step aside, and he was kind of forced aside for a number of factors. His son-in-law, his daughter Stephanie McMahon, his son-in-law Triple H, Paul Levesque.
I remember Triple H.
Triple H is now basically running WWE, and he is basically revamping and restructuring everything. He's brought like a lot of the older guys that were, or a lot of the superstars that were fired or let go under Vince are coming back. There's a whole new energy. The morale has lifted. I've read some of the reports and some of the releases and some of the articles about WWE. Like, morale is high across the board. And now you can see it. You watch the shows and it's like the storytelling is better. Things are just better.
Yeah.
This is what's happening, I think, at Disney. The morale was low for a number of factors, but Chapek, that's the boss. He's the guy in charge. Saying,
and he was not about storytelling, honestly.
No, he was not. He was not about
financials.
He was about the money. And I mean, the secret is this: Disney is a company, and they're about making money, but they're also about telling stories along the way.
And they've always before found this nice balance.
Yes,
I feel like where it's like, yeah, they're a business. Okay, like they're not in the business of like, just doing stuff for free. However, they walked that line. And they stopped walking the line and they got into a ditch on one side. And I am just hopeful that now we're going to go back and find that line again.
Yes. Now, and again, this is according to the New York Times articles, which, by the way, I don't trust everything they write on a lot of subjects, but I do trust this based on the reporting that's done. the company in a statement said that Iger returned with a mandate to develop a successor to lead the company at the completion of his term. So there is
which
some
I
thought
can
about
totally see
whether he will stay, but he will be 73 when he is done with this part of the contract.
Okay.
I kind of think he wasn't ready to retire. I don't know how long he'll stay past the 2 years. I can't imagine he would stay. I mean, I can't imagine he'll stay another 10 years, 10, 15 years because
no, but I could see him like transitioning to like a consulting role, like as he develops a new CEO, if indeed that's what his mandate is, you know, I could see that happening.
Right. So Disney has a lot of challenges ahead of them. First of all, they've got to get the parks turned around because, and I've said it before, and I'll say it 1,000 times, Universal has a new theme park coming in 2 years. That is going to smack Disney in the face if they're not careful. I honestly think Iger is going to meet that head on. I really do. I
think Iger's the right man to meet it head on.
Yeah, somebody tweeted and it was like Iger should open Tron this week just to show his dominance. Which
I saw that.
Which is also funny that Iger began the construction of Tron, and now he's going to end the construction of Tron. Construction of Tron outlasted Bob Chapek. And the other thing, Scott Gustin, if you're not following Scott Gustin on Twitter, please do so. He posted a little thing that showed Chapek's tenure from this date to this date, 999 days. And it was like, I guess there's not room for one more. I guess there's not room for one more.
Great.
I was like, that's perfect. So, Jen, let's talk just real quick. On this Thanksgiving episode, Thanksgiving week, we were thankful that Iger's back. So, first of all, where do we are we happy about this? I'm assuming yes, but are we happy?
Yeah, I mean, and granted, listen, I watched a whole thread on Twitter yesterday. People who weren't happy. You know, there are, I guess, I mean, I did not know a lot of them, but Chapek had his fans, you know. Yeah. But, you know, personally, from a perspective of having been in this Disney world, so to speak, like in the broad sense, tail end of Eisner, but, you know, like being basically a fan at that point. But then like when, doing the travel thing, I think that this is a good move at this juncture. And then for the future, I think there are a couple of people that we could say could be in the queue for Iger to develop. You know, I know that, and by the way, I do need to throw out that quasi-producer Heather is over the moon. She would like that known right now. Yep. Yeah. And I do think, you know, and will Josh be the next one? Well, we don't know. Maybe he's not the right man for succession, but there are a few great people that could be developed into the next CEO, I think. So, you know,
I think Dana Walden, who is the chairman of Disney Entertainment Content, she's the name that's been mentioned. Another name is, and I don't expect everybody to remember these names, but they might pop up again, and you might go, "Oh yeah, we were told about that." Alan Bergman, who's the chairman of Disney Studios Content, and of course Josh Tomorrow.
Right?
A source close to the whole thing, take it for what it's worth, has said one of the reasons that Dana or Josh were not chosen for this succession is they weren't ready. They were not ready for this position. And I think this is not a position you put somebody in who doesn't know what they're doing.
This is not one where you can learn on the job. You have to have a certain skill set, a very particular set of skills, Liam Neeson.
Yep.
You know,
and I think one of the reasons Iger is obviously back is because, and he has been quoted as saying that Disney lost its soul. Disney is losing its soul, and he just felt like Chapek was not the right guy for the job. And again, Iger's legacy, he wants to come in, and so he retires the second time or the third time or however many times he's retired, that he knows he's left the company in good hands because he doesn't want this to be a stain on his legacy. He doesn't want people to go, Iger did this, it was awesome.
And I think he does love
Chapek, you know.
But I think he does love the company, and I think
he is a creative. That's the whole thing.
That's the difference. You have to have a business-minded creative in charge.
And I think you're right. I think that with the company itself, with Chapek, it's not as if he wasn't capable of doing the job. I think his focus was on everything that was not important. I don't say it wasn't important, but he lost focus, and when things started going down, he didn't look
the reason they were successful. Like that's what makes you successful, and that's what you have to look at. If you're successful because of your creativity and because of your storytelling, you can't put that by the wayside to make a buck, because you're going to stop being successful if you stop that. And that's I think what
I think, and this is rumor. So but I've read this in a couple of articles with quote unquote sources close to the situation, was that when Star Cruiser opened and it did not open to the fanfare they were hoping, of course, everything was full for a month or two or three, and then things started opening up, whatever, that Chapek kind of scapegoated that off on some people, and those people didn't appreciate it. And there was a rumor going around that he was kind of looking to scapegoat the poor quarterly performance
I read this.
To somebody else, including Susan Arnold and the board.
And including the board.
And Susan Arnold was like, nope, I'm not taking the blame for this at all.
Yeah.
And again, it was a quiet coup. Again, unlike Eisner, it wasn't done at a shareholders meeting. It was done behind the scenes. But
to me, that's also a bit of a leadership thing too. Like that bothers me as a person, because if you are, just like I own an agency, right? Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, even if it's not my mistake, even if there was really nothing I could do, at some level, I have to have some ownership of it because I'm the one in charge. So
and you also have to figure out how to fix it as well, and what to put your focus on and what not to. You know what? This over here is working fine. Let me figure out why
isn't this working?
Why is everybody so unhappy?
And
right now
let's take advice from people who have been there, who have done it successfully. Yes. You can't shut out expertise. So maybe he felt threatened by Iger or whatever. His ego maybe was too big to deal with that. But what better person to talk to? I mean, hello, you have 2 living CEOs who both did great things for the company.
I was just imagining what would happen if it had been announced that Iger was coming back and Eisner was going to be an advisory role. The internet already broke down. I mean, I would pass out. I'd be like, oh, I would have pulled a Heather and be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. I would go nuts. It would have been insane. As it was, Diz Twitter was just blowing up. It was on fire. Like my phone was smoking because all the chats and
everybody's like, oh my gosh.
It's I don't think it's too small of a thing to say this is Disney history. We are watching Disney history unfold in front of us.
Well, just like Eisner's was Disney history. Exactly. I feel like it's the same thing.
Exactly. We're watching it unfold, and now in a digital media age versus this isn't just we are, allowing somebody to kind of secede and come in. Now Iger's last day, Chapek's coming in. Of course, we watched the whole pandemic happen. This whole weekend has been like a historical moment in the turn of Disney, because now Iger's got to figure out how to fix things, where to put the concentration
and
on.
I think it's a relief, honestly, for a lot of us, because listen, Disney's had turns before. It's not the first time in its history that there have been things not going great. I mean, shoot, when Walt was alive, when Walt was CEO, or did he even call himself CEO? I don't even know if he did call himself
let me
CEO.
Go ahead and put this out here. First of all, ticket prices are not going to go down. Disney's not going to be, Iger's not going to be like, guess what, guys, tickets are $100 now. No, tickets prices are not going down.
Not going to happen.
I would imagine Genie Plus is going to stick around for the long term.
Oh, I think that's going to be, because they're going to have something like that.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, there is a recession coming. And I believe that's going to be the free dining. It's going to be free Genie. That's my opinion. That's my prediction.
Y'all, that is not a rumor. We are not starting rumors. That's just a prediction.
That's just, as soon as Genie came out last year, I was like,
you said that. You did say that last year
of the future.
And I could see, I could see that happening. Who knows?
I don't know that the dining plan will come back. It may or may not. I had 5 people text me immediately and say, now that the new guy's in charge, is dining plan coming back? And I'm like, yes, right after
I had 2 client emails.
He brings back the Great Movie Ride and the Maliboomer and Splash Mountain. It's all coming back. Which, by the way, Splash Mountain is not coming back because Iger is notoriously strong against Song of the South and all things related to it. So this cannot happen soon enough for Bob Iger.
No, in fact, if anything, it's probably going to get fast tracked. I would think, the changeover.
I think that's the other thing too, is that I think some things in the works will get fast tracked. I think Heather made a good point that I think that Epcot will get fast tracked to get done. Tron will get opened on time. Thank God,
because it's been under construction for like 12 years.
Yeah, it really has been, because we got to get that done heading into next year. I think Tron will get done on time.
I think Tron is going to get.
I think the Blue Sky stuff that we announced at D23 with the whole possible villains park.
I think they're going to start to pull that.
I don't know that they're doing that specifically, but I think they will start laying concrete plans for some of those kind of things. I think Destination D next August is going to be on fire.
It's going to be lit,
because Iger will be coming out going, here's what we're doing, folks. It's just one of those crazy things. So, we're excited. We're very happy. I will say this. I am cautiously optimistic. I'm very optimistic with a little bit of caution because, I don't,
because always.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think anybody should expect, by like December 3rd, suddenly all this brand new. No, nothing. I think there has to.
It didn't happen overnight. It doesn't progress overnight.
Right. But I'm hoping that we will start hearing some news, some notifications, some plans, some Disney now saying that, by spring we will have this, or we will have that, or, maybe.
And once it gets in motion, it's going to be I think it's going to be like a freight train.
Yep, I
think
so.
Not the Walt Disney World train, because it's still shut down.
And Iger's restructuring right now. Like, he is restructuring. And I mentioned Kareem Daniel earlier. I mentioned
you mentioned that.
Chapek brought him in. Kareem Daniel's been let go. I think other executives will also be let go.
I think I saw that it's somebody else. I don't remember who though. So I know that there were a couple of other positions that have switched. So
there are threads out there that talking about Josh tomorrow, whether he's in danger or not. I don't think that could happen right now, because I think that would be a PR nightmare. I think Iger has a lot of goodwill right now, and I think letting Tomorrow go would be would be a hit on that.
But I think Tomorrow's got a lot of good things to offer.
I think so too. I think so too.
I really think he's got a lot of good things. And I mean, listen, again, it's not like Iger has never put out a dud. I mean, I know Genie isn't working the way we all would like, but I think there's potential for it. I think with some revamping, and maybe now that the pressure, because part of me, leadership comes from the top, right?
Yep.
If there's a lot of pressure on the dollars, what's going to happen? So now if the focus goes differently, I think things could, I don't know. I just think it could be positive.
Yes, I agree. So one final thing before we end the show here. Last week we did a Pixar top 20, which was so exciting and everything. And you gave your 20 and I gave my 19. Somehow, some way, I'm listening to the show. I'm editing, I'm kind of taking out the pauses and whatever, and I'm like, where did my number 1 go? And I went back to listen to it again and I listened to it for a third time. And I was like, Jen gave her number 1. And I just completely skipped over it and was like, well, that's our countdown.
You know what? Literally, when you said that in my head, I'm like, oh, did he give his? Oh, that's right. He gave his number 1 first and then gave it to me. Literally in my head, that's what happened. And I should have just said, did you give your number 1? But I was like, no, Dave's got this.
So in the longest countdown in Main Street Electrical Podcast history, number 1, my favorite Pixar movie is, and if you did the math on this, you can figure it out. My favorite Pixar movie is The Incredibles. I love The Incredibles. I've always loved The Incredibles. It's one of my top 30 favorite films of all time. The beauty of The Incredibles, it's timeless. It's set in an era where it could be 1985, it could be 1955, it could be 2050.
It's timeless.
You have no idea. Also, it did one of those things where, and they don't do this much anymore, but they did this back in the day, where when they released the one Pixar film, they would show a trailer for the next year's Pixar film.
Yes.
But it would only be like a minute trailer. And if you remember this, Jen, this was the trailer where all you saw was Bob Parr trying on his outfit, and he couldn't get his pants on, and so he's all around the room. He's in this like rolling chair, and he's rolling around the room, and like you hear the background, honey, come up for dinner, I'm coming, and he's trying to get like his suit back on, and he can't. He's like rolling all over the office. Things are going crazy because he can't get the suit back on, and it's like The Incredibles coming next June. They used to do that every year. You get a 1-minute teaser. And it was so good because like they did that for WALL-E. You had no idea what the movie was about, but you knew you wanted to see it.
You're like, oh, this looks so cool.
Do you remember? Well, this is a Pixar, but they also did this for Frozen too. You remember there was a Sven and Olaf thing where they were on the ice running around. Yes,
I remember this
Olaf, and it was like this was 2012, and it was like or 20. Because 2013 when Frozen came out. So this is like 2012, and it was like Frozen 2013 or something, and it was just. There was
it with the carrot too. It was with I remember that.
There was a couple,
and I was like, "What is this?"
And I miss those. I don't know if you can even do those anymore,
those
not with social media and the way it is, but I miss those. So anyway, my number 1, The Incredibles, great movie, and now that countdown can be put to bed. So Jen, it is Thanksgiving week, and very thankful. First of all, I'm thankful for you. Thank you for doing this podcast with me. And I have to say thanks, by the way, guys. For those of you who don't know Jen, she is one of the most beautiful, wonderful people you will ever meet. She is just fantastic. She's great to work with, work for, and a great podcast co-host. She also does Diva's Dish Diz with her friend Christine, who does the podcast with her. They have released an episode every couple of weeks, every couple of years, And so, do you have anything else coming in the pipeline, or have you guys recorded again?
So we do have a
197 just came out, right? Or 198?
Yes, we have 197 that just came out. We are recording 198 this week.
Perfect.
And then we're determined to get to 200 before the end of the year. She went on a cruise, so that like disrupted our schedule, but it's fine. Right. So yes, we are going to be recording again. And so just lots of fun stuff coming up here.
Good. And the Couples Code, of course, your Christian couples podcast with your husband and 2 others.
Yes, re-recorded on Sunday.
Nice.
So hopefully that's gonna one of the co-hosts has to edit. It's his job.
Perfect. We will put links to these shows too on our show notes, and you can also find these shows and make sure you follow along and everything. And of course, the Couples Code, completely different from this show.
Totally different. Not for children's.
So
not for children.
It's a married pack.
It's a marriage.
Some married people. So just understand that. I also have the Deucecast movie show every Wednesday. It's basically me and somebody's been doing it for 12 years now.
Wow.
We just recorded. We're recording episode 560 this week.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. It's insane. We have annual Christmas episodes that we always do. They're coming up, and we have some guests coming on. Of course, Jen was on an episode not too long ago, and so that's on Wednesdays as well. And I keep thinking I'm gonna get my kids got the autism podcast going again. We've got lots of notes and lots of things for episodes, and I really need to get that done. But anyway, so thank you guys out there so much. Thanks to our audience for engaging, for listening. I always randomly hear people that say they listen to the podcast, and I'm like, I'm so glad you listened. That's fantastic. We had I met a girl, I think I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, a girl named Kylene, who was at the conference I was at, and she found the conference because of the podcast, here.
Oh, very nice.
Anyway, so that is Thanksgiving. We are thankful to you, Bob Iger, for stepping back into this role, and thank you for all the cast members.
And I'm thankful for you, David Dollar,
thank you
for all of the wonderful things that you do for the podcast and for the agency and for your friends.
There we go. There we go. Of course, yeah. Jen and I were like, we're pretty tight. We're buddies, and so and of course, Quasi producer Heather, thank you for your work. The YouTube stuff, which this show is on YouTube, by the way. We always forget to mention it, but it is on YouTube. You can always go there and see Jen's beautiful shining face and see my little big round head here with whatever background I got, which I got Eisner and Iger behind me here with this guy in the middle name is David Williams, and I forget who I think he's with Make-A-Wish, but I'm not really sure. But
I was going to ask you who that was. I was like, who's the dude in the middle?
I thought at first it was Katzenberg, and I'm like, that's not quite Katzenberg.
That's not Katzenberg.
Katzenberg is shorter. But anyway, so that is the podcast, folks, and we will see you guys next week. For Jen, I am Dave, and hey, don't forget to thank your Phoenicians.
Thank you for listening to the Main Street Electrical Podcast. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at the MSE Podcast, or visit our website at themsepodcast.com. Be sure to subscribe, and may all your wishes come true.